She offered dinner to a man everyone else called a hobo, not knowing he was hiding a life-changing secret. What happened next shocked an entire restaurant, and uncovered a truth no one saw coming. Stay with me, because this story? It'll break your heart, then put it back together. I'm Eliza, by the way. The bell above the door tinkled softly as Eliza stepped into the cozy downtown cafe, her breath visible in the chill of the late afternoon. Amid the warm glow of wooden tables, she noticed a scruffy man at the counter, his coat threadbare, his jeans patched, yet there was something calm and unhurried about him. Nearby, two women in designer coats leaned forward, judgment in their whispers. "Can I get a latte and, whatever that is," one whispered, nodding at his paper cup. The man didn't flinch. He just counted loose change and quietly placed coins on the counter. Eliza's heart tightened. Hiding her intent, she moved forward. "I've got this," she said to the barista, dropping a bill next to his coins. And, on a whim, she added a slice of cheesecake. As she turned to leave, Eliza paused and leaned in. "Dinner's on me tonight at 8. I'll wait," she said softly. He looked up, startled. Then he mustered a quiet, "Sure, thank you." She smiled, and then the two women spun back. "Are you going on a date with him? Really?" they hissed. "He's a hobo." Eliza simply replied, "He's a human being." Before 8 that evening, Eliza returned with a small table for two, elegantly set with a candle, cloth napkins, and silverware. Her nerves buzzed like electricity as she waited. Right at 8, the cafe door swung open. He walked in, clean-shaven now, hair-combed, yet wearing the same ragged coat. Eliza stood. "Evening," she said softly. His eyes went wide. "You came." They talked over pasta and salad. She learned his name, Julian. Gentle and thoughtful, he spoke of simple joys, rain tapping the window, the hush of quiet nights. It felt nice. Then, suddenly, a man in a tailored gray suit slid in beside them. "Eliza, fancy seeing you," he said, peering at Julian. "Who's your friend?" Eliza tensed. "Julian." The suited man laughed. "Sure. Listen, Eliza, this guy's a train hopper. He doesn't belong here." Julian smiled calmly. "I like quiet corners." The suited man smirked and issued a challenge. "Then let him strip, if he's truly innocent." A hush fell as the waiter stopped in his tracks. Eliza's cheeks flushed. Julian unbuttoned his coat, but stayed seated. The suited man chuckled again and walked away. Julian's eyes locked onto Eliza's. "Do you trust me?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Yes," she nodded. The next day, the cafe felt warmer, like it remembered last night. Eliza sat by the window, nursing a tea, her heart thudding with something between hope and nerves. Across from her was her best friend Ava, who insisted this be a double date. "You sure he's coming?" Ava asked, swirling the foam in her espresso. Across from her, her new boyfriend Clark adjusted his flashy watch, again. "He said 8, Eliza murmured. Ava smirked. "He better. If not, Clark's got a single friend with a yacht." Right then, as if summoned, Julian appeared. Same coat. Still a little frayed, but somehow, different, cleaner, proud. "I'm here," he said, quietly but clearly. Clark let out a laugh. "You brought him? Babe, I thought you said he was a gentleman. He looks like he just crawled out from under a bridge." Ava giggled, half-hearted. Eliza shot her a look, but Julian sat without flinching. "I like bridges," he said calmly. "Great views." That silenced Clark, for a beat. Then Julian's tone shifted. "By the way, Clark, we've met." Clark blinked, confused. Julian reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the table. A black lanyard. A badge. "Clark's my assistant," Julian said, voice soft but unmistakably clear. Eliza's jaw dropped. "Assistant?" Julian gave her a small, knowing smile. "I'm playing a role, a lead in a film. My character lives on the streets. So I did too. Stayed in shelters. Walked without a wallet. The director called it method acting. Turns out, this coat makes me invisible." Ava's eyes widened. Clark went pale. "I told you to return that suit," Julian added casually. "It's mine." Clark fumbled for words. I thought you were done for the day." "No," Julian cut in gently. "I was watching. You judged, just like they did." The silence hung heavy. Only the hiss of the espresso machine filled the space, sounding louder than it should have. Then Julian turned to Eliza, eyes steady. "You were the only one who didn't look away. So I need to ask. Can I see you again? Not as Julian the drifter. Not the actor. Just me." Before Eliza could respond, Ava burst out. "Are you serious? You're famous? And rich?" Julian tilted his head. "Define rich." Clark stood, face burning, and slinked away without another word. Eliza looked at Julian. The coat, the eyes, the quiet strength. She smiled. "Only if you wear that coat again." Julian grinned. After that night, Eliza found herself seeing the world through a different lens, more careful, more alive. Julian would show up at odd hours, sometimes holding warm pastries, sometimes drenched in rain, always with a story in his eyes. They didn't talk much about his fame. He didn't seem to care. To Eliza, he was just Julian, calm, observant, a little awkward sometimes. But when he smiled, it reached all the way to his eyes. One evening, she found herself walking past a boutique, eyeing a soft pink baby romper displayed in the window. Her gaze lingered too long. Julian noticed. "You like that?" he asked. Eliza hesitated. Then, quietly, "I used to imagine, what if?" Julian didn't press, just reached out and gently laced his fingers through hers. Days turned into weeks. One night, Eliza brought Julian home. He stepped cautiously through her front door, shoulders tense. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded, slowly. "Yeah, it's been a while since a door opened for me." Inside, the small apartment glowed warmly, soft lights, houseplants, worn books stacked beside the couch. Julian paused by a photo on the wall. A younger Eliza holding a newborn baby. Her name was June, Eliza said, voice catching. She didn't stay. Julian turned, eyes full of something heavy and tender. "She mattered," he said. A pause. Then she whispered, "Still does." Later that night, Eliza pulled out a small storage box from beneath her bed. Inside were tiny clothes, hospital bracelets, letters never sent. She sat cross-legged, Julian beside her, silent. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. A few days later, Julian suggested they go somewhere quiet. He drove them up a winding road to a hilltop garden that overlooked the city. "I come here when things feel too big," he said. There, among the wildflowers and overgrown hedges, Julian knelt suddenly, only not the way Eliza expected. He pulled out a small stuffed bunny from his coat pocket and placed it gently beneath a tree. "For June," he murmured. Eliza's breath hitched. She hadn't known how much she needed that moment. The gesture, the tenderness. Then he looked at her, really looked. "Eliza, I know this started strangely. I know I came to you wearing a different name, different clothes, pretending to be less than I was. But you saw more." "Julian," she began. "I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a chance. A real one. As me." Eliza reached for his hand. Her heart was steady now. "Okay," she whispered. And in that moment, under a sky smeared with dusk, neither of them felt like pretending anymore. Eliza never thought falling in love would feel this quiet. No fireworks, no sweeping gestures. Just warm coffee in the morning, shared glances in grocery aisles, long drives with no destination. Julian was different at home. The ragged hoodie and guarded eyes were gone. He smiled more, laughed easier. He learned how she liked her tea, folded blankets just the way she did, and listened, really listened, when she spoke about the past. But not everyone was happy about Eliza's new life. It started with Dave. He showed up outside her building one rainy afternoon, leaning against his black car like a storm cloud in human form. Slicked back black hair, dark suit, smug expression. He hadn't changed. "So this is where you've been hiding," he said, stepping closer. "With him?" Eliza froze. "You don't get to ask about my life anymore," she said firmly. Dave raised an eyebrow. "You used to call me when things got hard. That was before I realized you were part of what made them hard." Dave scoffed. "You're throwing your life away on some moody actor playing dress-up in the dirt. He's not real, Eliza. He's a story." "So am I," she replied quietly. "And I finally like the chapter I'm in." Later that night, Julian found her curled on the couch, eyes rimmed red. She didn't have to say anything. He just sat beside her and pulled her close. Days passed. Then Ava called. Ava, Eliza's younger sister, beautiful, free-spirited, and lately, missing from her life. She wanted to meet. They met at a park. Ava looked different, her auburn hair in a loose bun, clothes casual but wrinkled, eyes tired. "I messed up," Ava whispered, eyes flicking toward the baby stroller beside her. Eliza leaned over. Inside was June. Big hazel eyes, dark curls, chubby cheeks, a pastel romper, breathing softly. "She's yours?" Eliza asked. Ava nodded slowly. "I wasn't ready. I thought I could handle it, but..." Her voice cracked. "I'm so tired, Eliza." Eliza swallowed hard, kneeling beside the stroller. "You named her June?" "After you," Ava whispered. "I remembered everything you lost. I thought maybe naming her that could make something right." Eliza blinked fast, a tear slipping free. Later, Eliza brought Julian to meet the baby. He stared down at her, that soft expression crossing his face again. Carefully, he scooped June into his arms, cradling her with a gentleness Eliza hadn't seen before. "Hi, little one," he murmured. The room fell silent as June wrapped a tiny fist around his finger. "She trusts you already," Eliza said, barely a whisper. Julian looked up. "Do you?" Eliza smiled. No hesitation this time. "With all my heart." There's a strange kind of calm that settles when two people stop pretending. For Eliza and Julian, the days grew simpler, quiet meals, stroller walks with June, and stories exchanged on park benches. But peace doesn't last forever. Especially when the past comes knocking. It started with a call from Clark. Julian answered, but his shoulders tensed instantly. Eliza could hear only his side of the conversation, but that was enough. "No, I'm not coming back yet. No, I haven't signed anything." "She doesn't know." "Clark, stop. I said not yet." Julian hung up, staring at the wall. Eliza placed a hand on his. "Is everything okay?" He hesitated. "It's complicated. There's a contract, a film I was supposed to headline. I walked away before we started shooting. Clark's the producer." Eliza's brow furrowed. "And he wants you back?" "More like, he wants to own my name. My face. The whole version of me they've packaged for years." Julian rubbed his temples. "I never wanted fame like that. I just wanted to act." A few days later, the doorbell rang. And there he was. Clark, in his usual tailored gray suit, expensive watch gleaming under the hallway light, slick dark hair, and an arrogant smile. "Eliza," he said smoothly, brushing past her into the apartment. "Mind if I talk to the method actor you've been hiding?" Julian appeared from the hallway, cradling June. Clark gave a sarcastic chuckle. "Wow, look at you. Homeless chic to stay-at-home dad. Didn't see that twist coming." Julian handed June gently to Eliza, then turned. "What do you want, Clark?" Clark opened his briefcase. "A signature. And a reminder. You owe us 2 more films. We've already built the marketing. You disappear now, and you're finished." Julian exhaled slowly. "I'm already finished. At least with pretending to be someone I'm not." Clark smirked. "You'll regret this, once the world finds out where you've been hiding." Eliza stepped forward. "Then let them. Maybe people are tired of the fake version." Clark scoffed and walked out without another word. That night, Julian sat at the kitchen table in silence, staring at the papers Clark left behind. Eliza joined him. "You know," she said gently, "you don't have to choose between your art and your peace. You just have to choose you." Julian looked at her, eyes tired but clear. "Do you think I'm selfish, for wanting something small, something quiet?" Eliza shook her head. "No, I think it's brave." They fell into silence again, the good kind. The kind where no words are needed. June stirred in the other room. Rain tapped softly at the windows. And in that moment, Julian reached across the table and took Eliza's hand. "Whatever comes next, let's face it together." She squeezed his fingers. "Always." Morning light crept in through the kitchen window, catching on Eliza's floral blouse as she spooned mashed banana into June's tiny mouth. Julian stood at the sink, rinsing coffee mugs, wearing that same faded hoodie, but now, with a new kind of peace on his face. They had carved out something real. Something fragile, but warm. Then came the email. Julian's phone buzzed, and he stared at the screen longer than usual. Eliza noticed the color drain from his face. "What is it?" she asked. "It's from Dave," Julian muttered. "He was my agent. Or still is, technically." Dave, slick hair, dark suit, and a voice like a sales pitch, was always in Julian's shadow, collecting percentages and spinning lies to make stars out of sparks. Julian handed Eliza the phone. The message was blunt. "You're being recast. We're going public with a new face. You've got 48 hours to sign the contract or lose everything. Name, rights, royalties." Eliza set the phone down slowly. "Can they really do that?" Julian shrugged. "The image isn't mine, just the man I was pretending to be." She looked at him. "But you're not that man anymore." Later that day, Ava stopped by, Eliza's younger sister, auburn hair swept back in a braid, wearing a soft gray hoodie and leggings. She carried a grocery bag and a look of worry. "You two are all over the gossip sites," Ava said, holding up her phone. "Some influencer posted a clip of Julian at the cafe with you. It's going viral." Julian winced. Eliza gently took June from his lap. "This was bound to happen," she said. "The world never leaves mystery alone." "You could run," Ava added. "Hide out for a bit. I mean, it's not like you haven't done it before." Julian gave a tired laugh. "The difference is, this time I'm not hiding. I'm just living. To those who shaped me into a brand. I am not your product. I'm not your storyline. I'm not the face you printed on bus stops and called authentic. I'm a man who rediscovered his voice in silence. I found more truth in a cup of coffee paid for by kindness than in any scene I ever performed. I am walking away, not from fame, but from fiction. Sincerely, Julian." The next morning, Eliza watched as Julian dropped the envelope in a mailbox outside the apartment. She reached for his hand. "Are you ready for the storm?" she asked. "I'm ready for the quiet after." And then, they walked back inside, just a man, a woman, and a baby, with nothing to sell, nothing to prove. Just each other. Days passed. The internet roared with speculation. Was Julian really quitting acting? Was it a publicity stunt? Had he gone off the rails? The tabloids dug into old photos, red carpet interviews, and stitched together a fiction far removed from reality. But inside the small apartment where warmth lingered in every corner, Eliza, Julian, and baby June lived quietly. Until Clark showed up. He arrived in a sleek gray car, stepping out in his signature tailored suit, shiny leather shoes hitting the pavement like a gavel. Clark, Julian's old producer, was the kind of man who mistook power for presence and money for love. Julian opened the door just wide enough. "This isn't a great time," he said. "Julian, come on. We go back years," Clark replied smoothly, pushing his sunglasses up. "You don't return your agent's calls. You disappear for months. And now you've gone full monk with a baby and a blog post?" Julian crossed his arms. "You came to talk me back?" "No," Clark smirked. "I came to remind you, this industry owns you. The face, the fame, the fortune, you signed for all of it. Walk away, and we bury your legacy under someone younger, shinier. Someone who will play along." From behind Julian, Eliza stepped into view, June perched on her hip. "Then bury him," she said, calmly. Clark blinked, as if only now seeing the full picture. He scoffed and turned on his heel. "You'll come crawling back." Julian didn't reply. He simply shut the door. Later that night, Eliza and Julian sat on the living room floor, June asleep in a bassinet beside them. "You're really not going back?" she asked gently. Julian looked at her, his green eyes soft under the lamp's glow. "I didn't lose myself in that role, Eliza. I found the parts one had forgotten." He pulled out a notebook. Inside were scribbles, lines of dialogue, pieces of a new script. Not for the big screen. Not for a studio. For himself. "It's about us," he said. "About this. The kind of story that never makes headlines." Eliza leaned her head on his shoulder. "Maybe that's the kind that matters most." Meanwhile, Nina, Clark's flashy PR executive, stormed into his office the next morning in her red designer dress and stiletto heels. "You let him walk? Do you know how many followers we just lost because you couldn't control your precious method actor?" Clark slammed a folder shut. "Let him. He'll be back when he realizes you can't raise a baby on principle." Nina scoffed. "He has something now you'll never buy, love." Clark sneered. "That won't pay the bills." But back in the apartment, Eliza and Julian weren't thinking about bills. They were thinking about breakfast. They were learning how to braid June's hair into tiny loops, how to plan grocery runs around nap schedules, how to fall asleep in each other's arms without wondering how they looked to the world. They were no longer acting. They were just living. Spring crept in quietly, like hope after a long winter. The trees outside Eliza's window blushed pink with blossoms. The city moved on, unaware that a small miracle was growing behind an old apartment door. Inside, Julian sat cross-legged on the floor, June in his lap, babbling between hiccupy giggles. He wore a soft t-shirt and joggers now, no more disguise, no more spotlight. Just a father, humming off-key lullabies while Eliza packed a lunch nearby. "She likes carrots now," Eliza said with a small smile, watching them. "She's going to be stronger than both of us," Julian replied, pretending to struggle as June tugged on his ear. "Definitely has your grip." Their laughter bounced off the walls like sunlight. Later that day, Julian opened his laptop. The cursor blinked on a blog post titled, "The Role That Changed Me." He didn't name names. He didn't drag the industry or brag about his walkaway. He just told the truth. How he became invisible to learn apart, and how a kind stranger saw him anyway. How he was mistaken for less, judged by suits, and rescued not by fame, but by love. He ended the post with just 6 words. "She believed in me. I stayed." The post went viral in hours. People wrote in from everywhere: nurses, waiters, former actors, single mothers. Strangers shared their own moments of being seen. Some cried, some called it staged, but none could ignore it. And then, the world started watching again. But this time, not with flashing cameras or screaming crowds. With quiet hearts. One evening, Julian stood at the park's edge as Eliza laid out a blanket for a picnic. Dave approached cautiously, hands in his coat pockets, looking less smug than usual. "Hey," he muttered, "I read your thing." Julian didn't turn. "Yeah? I wasn't great to you back then." Julian looked at him. "No, but thanks for showing me who not to be." Dave winced. "Fair. Well, if you ever need help producing that little script you're working on." Julian shook his head gently. "This one's just for us." He walked back to the blanket where June was already trying to eat a grape whole. Meanwhile, in a quieter part of town, Ava sat beside her window with a cup of tea. She had left the drama behind too. No more hiding behind sarcasm and flashy friends. Eliza had reached out, and Ava, to her surprise, had replied. Sometimes, beginnings look like endings. But sometimes, they just look like dinner with someone who never judged you. At sunset, Eliza and Julian walked along the path, June held between them by both tiny hands. "So," Eliza teased, "what's your next role?" Julian smiled. "Maybe I'll play a dad. I hear it's a long-term gig. Hope you're good at improv." "Only when I've got the right scene partner." And as the sky glowed gold above them, they didn't pose for pictures or check their phones. They just held hands, 3 hearts beating in rhythm, walking toward a future that didn't need an audience, only each other. If this story touched your heart like it did mine, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with someone who still believes in kindness. And if you want more emotional, true-to-life tales that stir the soul, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales TV, where every story leaves a mark.